Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. And I have got the pleasure of having on this side, this way, Sandie with me. Look at this. Sandie Skyrme is with me. Say hi. Really appreciate you coming on and being interviewed tonight. So really kind of looking forward to hearing your story, Sandie. So how are you feeling now? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous.
You do fine, honestly. You'd be brilliant. It's great to have you on our interview. So, and I know there's lots of people which are going to be joining and listening to your story. So it's going to be really exciting to hear your story. So yeah, what have you been doing today? Just by chance, have you been doing any artwork? What have you been doing today?
I've actually been getting my studio ready for a workshop, which I'm doing in there tomorrow morning. So
Oh wow,
I've been getting ready for creative mosaics tomorrow morning. So
creative
just
mosaics.
with one person, because it all has to be socially distanced. So
Yeah, that's
I'm
it.
just doing with one person at the moment, or with a family group.
Right.
So yeah.
So it's their bubbles, that kind of thing like
Yeah,
that. Yes.
that's
Okay.
right.
Great.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. And I'm very distant from them.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, the other side of the room, shouting instructions. Yes.
Actually, yeah, we have glass. It's really good because
Oh right.
I've got a glass, big glass windows in front, dividing two studio spaces. So I'm in one side, and then they're in the other side.
Oh, so it
So
works out really well then.
it works out really well. Yeah.
Excellent. Brilliant. Oh, great. Okay. So, uh, Sandie, tell us your story because I know it's really quite an amazing story. This, so I'm really quite intrigued and
Oh,
yeah, I've heard lots of other people say about your story as being as really quite unique and artistic and creative. Yeah, so many things. So I'm really kind of
well, I have to say, it's God really. He does amazing things in our lives,
yes,
and I just think that my testimony is really just God's goodness, really, and everything that He does for us, and yeah, how He can just work in amazing ways in amazing situations. So,
wow,
I
okay.
was. You want me to go now?
Well, yeah, yeah, so yeah. When did you get set? When did Jesus really kind of become part of your life then? So what? Yeah, tell us your story. How
Oh,
it
yeah.
came about. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, I think the first time that I sort of really encountered God, as it were, was when I was quite little, and I can't really remember what age. But my mum was very poorly
Right.
when I was younger. She suffered from epilepsy, but she had a kind of epilepsy that was very severe, and
Right.
so she would continually fit. And she had that through the whole of my childhood. She had an accident when she was younger,
Right.
a head injury, and it was a result of that. So I grew up very much with my mum's illness, part of our family. She was taken to hospital a lot. She was really ill. And all sorts of different things. It was back in the 70s
Mm,
when people just did not understand about epilepsy, particularly. So I was bullied quite badly at school and all sorts of things. Just
right.
really quite traumatic and stressful.
Mm.
But one occasion, I was told by somebody that I wouldn't see my mum again, that she was so ill that she probably wouldn't make it.
Oh wow.
And I can remember lying in bed, and this was when I was very little, and I can't really remember, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. Um, and I just had a real sense that God was with me,
Mm.
and that God was looking after me, and that everything was going to be okay, and I didn't need to worry. And I just had that really strong sense that God was looking after me,
Mm.
and so I didn't really worry. I wasn't, particularly worried that I wasn't going to see her again, because I kind of just had that real sense that God was with me.
Mm.
And then my mum actually came to know Jesus first in our family.
Right.
And when she became a Christian, she was healed of the epilepsy.
Really?
Um, in quite an amazing, yeah, she was healed as she gave her life to God. She kind of felt the epilepsy kind of going from her,
Wow.
and she never had any more seizures after she became a Christian. And this obviously was such an amazing thing because the doctors, I mean, they were quite blown away by it at the time.
Yeah, I
Um,
bet they were.
and obviously, for our family, it was amazing because she'd gone from being very poorly to being fine. And we, you know, obviously it was God's healing power. There's no other explanation. So slowly all of my family came to know the Lord. And
Wow.
I was 13 when I gave my life to Jesus,
Right.
and I'd actually been on a youth group sort of day out, and I came
Right.
back from that, and I said to my mum and dad, I really want to become a Christian, and they prayed with me. And there was a little book back in the 70s that everyone used called Journey into Life, and I went
Yeah, I
through
can
that and
remember
prayed the
those.
prayer
Yeah.
at the end. Yeah, you heard of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I basically gave my life to God. Um, and I was kind of going to quite a lively youth group on a
Yeah.
Sunday evening, and it was really good. It was at the Baptist church at the end of our road, so it was very
Okay.
easy to get to. But in the mornings, we were still going to quite a traditional Anglican church.
Right.
And it was traditional, and there wasn't really anything for young people. I kind of, well, when they were 11 years old, the kids kind of left the Sunday school, and then they had a choice of either kind of going into the choir
Yeah.
or really not a lot else. And nobody really wanted to join the choir, or not many people.
Yeah.
So they kind of just left the church. And I just thought this was a real tragedy, actually, that all these young people were just, there was nothing for them.
It
And
just kind of
I
stopped
was
at 11 and that was it, kind of thing, really.
absolutely, yeah. And I was only 16 at the time. But I just felt that I really wanted to do something for these kids.
Oh, right.
So I sort of had this idea that I would start a youth group for them.
Wow. At the age of 16, you started a
At the
youth
age of
group for the.
16, yeah.
Amazing.
I look back now and it seems crazy. And especially in this church, it was not the sort of church where you just started a youth group.
Right.
Um, and so when I ended up, I went to see the vicar. I had to go to see the vicar for
Yeah.
permission
Yeah.
to do it. And you just didn't do that. It just wasn't done. And nobody really approached the vicar in that way. But I just kind of remember really clearly, boldly going up to him after a service saying, I really want to start a youth group for children when they leave Sunday school
Yeah.
for something to do. And he just said, yeah, that's fine. And actually blew me away, but also blew like everyone,
Excellent.
my family away. Were just like, because it just didn't normally happen like that at all. I did, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I really didn't know what I was doing. It was actually quite funny because I can remember thinking, what should I do on the first one? We got it all together. I mean, bear in mind, this was back in the day before health and safety and before safeguarding,
Yeah, and all
and it was
those.
a lot
Yeah.
easier to start these kind of things. But even so, I was like, I didn't really know what to do. So I thought, well, young people like cake. So I made cakes and I took my guitar along and I played them some songs and we ate cake. And I just told them about Jesus. And there was only 3 of them,
Wow.
but they were just really, really engaged with it. And they just wanted to know. They just had a hunger about Jesus to find out about him. So over the next few weeks,
Wow.
I told them about what Jesus had done for me and what it meant to be a Christian. And they all gave their lives to the Lord within a few weeks.
Wow.
And the group started to grow. And this is where, I mean, this is God. We just do these tiny little things, and yet God does amazing things with it. These kids just wanted to know more, and more of them started coming as well. And they just had amazing faith. I can remember one day a girl came in and she had a bad shoulder. And they were just like, well, let's pray for her then. So they prayed for her and she was healed. Just like
Excellent.
that.
Just like that.
It was just amazing. They had such lovely faith. And I was really young, and I was like week by week just following like what I thought God wanted me to talk to them about.
Yeah,
And
that's
it was very like, it was very basic, but God, I think, really had his hand on that group. Obviously, I couldn't run it forever. I did it for about 3 years, and then I had to go away to college. And my sister took it over, and my sister is now working with YWAM. She actually took the group over, and she kind of grew it even more than what I did. And then
But you
eventually
pioneered it. You pioneered it.
yeah.
You asked the
And do you know
question.
what?
That's
Actually,
so right.
it was called the Pioneers Group because of that. It was
Yeah, excellent.
yeah, I didn't really know what to call it. And one day, that at the beginning, the name just Pioneers came to me. So we actually called it Pioneers because it had never been done in the church, particularly like that before.
Amazing.
It was a real pioneering sort of experience. Um, and obviously, my sister then, she kind of moved on to YWAM, and passed it on to another chap. And then we didn't really hear very much about it until a couple of years ago. And I just heard through a conversation with my mum that amazing things had happened after we handed it all over. So
Yeah.
the group had actually grown. And ended up moving to the evening on a Sunday evening because it had grown quite big.
Wow.
And it became like they started a youth band, and it became like a more of a service, I think. They had a youth alpha course they ran, and eventually it triggered all sorts of exciting things happening within the church.
Wow.
And there was quite a wave of God just like moving in the church, through that just growing. And I think there's two things that I really wanted to bring out of this story, and they're just two amazing things. And first of all, I just think you're never too old for God to use you. Sorry, you're never too young for God to use you.
Yeah.
You can be never too old
Oh,
either.
either way, yes, most
I,
definitely.
I know. I mean, especially the young people, you might think that you're too young for God to do anything with you, but actually, He can use you if you're willing. And if you're willing to be obedient and just do what He's saying, He will use you and do amazing things. And the second thing is that we can sow really small seeds, but they can grow into big trees. And I had no idea any of this had grown on since I left. And yet God took a tiny little seed that I planted, and I love gardening and I love planting things. And it amazes me when you grow a tiny seed and this huge tree or plant grows from it. And we just never know when we plant the seeds in people's lives what is going to happen and the
True.
fruit that's going to come from it. And I just, amazed really that, God did that. And also, I didn't really, sometimes you just don't see the fruit. And I didn't see the fruit for years. I didn't know even about it until I was just told a couple of years ago. So yeah, it was really quite an amazing thing. I feel so small and privileged to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, just almost can't quite believe it happened. So
Well, sometimes it's having the audacity to ask the question, isn't it?
yeah,
And
yeah,
you never know where it's going to take you. And look at that,
absolutely.
and how it's affects so many people from
Yeah,
that one question to the vicar.
I know. Yeah, what grew from that? Incredible. It really is.
Amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That
So,
is really good. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so then I kind of went off to art college, and I went and did a degree in art with
Right.
primary education as well. And I loved my course. I loved my art course. It was a very sort of diverse course. We covered ever such a lot within it.
Mm.
But I now look back and just see how God really put me in the right place doing that course. It was in Winchester, and it was everything, all the skill set that I learned at that time, I'm using every day now. It's quite incredible, really, the things that I
Yeah.
learned. And I think God just really put me in the right place. As I say, I just really loved it. And then after I left art college, I went and did 2 years in a primary school, and I taught reception and year one in a really tough school in Farnborough. And it was really tough. I'd come from this lovely little bubble of college where everything was just gorgeous in Winchester. It was very picturesque, very beautiful college, very old, lots of history, beautiful surroundings, countryside, everything. And then I went into this quite horrible, tough area of Farnborough, and taught in a really tough school actually with really tough kids. And it was a very difficult time, and I really struggled. And was very stressed, and the stress of the job kind of triggered off a lot of anxiety that I'd had from my childhood
Right.
and what I'd been through with my mum's illness. And it just all started coming out. And I just found it harder and harder to sort of function. And I can remember one day when I just was driving home from school, and I pulled into a car park in Church Crookham, and there was I parked in front of a brick wall, and I just sat in my car looking at this brick wall, and I was like, I don't know where I go from here. I can't do this anymore. And I literally said it out loud like that to God. And I said, you've got to help me, Lord. I can't do this anymore. And, it was a bit like when I was a child. It was one of those defining moments. I just really felt like that nothing really changed, but I felt inside that God was looking after me again. And that God was looking after me has come through several times in my life. And this was the second time it's really came through.
Right.
And I kind of knew that I needed to change direction as well, that it wasn't working what I was doing. And I think that was God really prompting me to change my direction and look into a different avenue of where I wanted to go. So I handed in my notice and left that job. Right. And I loved art so much. I wanted to start an art business. So I started an art business doing art. And I sort of did that for quite a while, and then I met my husband and got married.
Oh, right. Was that through art? Did that happen through art, or?
No, I mean that is another amazing story.
Okay. Oh, I get. Yeah. I've got all night for the amazing stories, honestly. So it's great. No, keep on carrying.
Yeah, so it was really through YWAM actually. Right. Caroline, my sister, was with YWAM, and she had met Danny there, who's my husband, and Danny was looking for a place to live. He'd just got a job in the area where my parents lived, and I was actually living with my parents at the time running this business.
Right.
And so my sister managed to find Danny a room because there happened to be a room for rent in the house opposite. So she connected Danny and this person up together, and so yeah, they just Danny eventually moved into this room, and my sister sort of instigated all that. And then Danny came and bought a box of chocolates to say thank you or something like that. And that's when I met Danny. And yeah, and then the rest, as they say, is history.
Oh, wow. So it's through a box of chocolates he won your heart. Is that what it was?
For me. It was for my sister. So funny. But yeah, so I met Danny and very quickly realised that he was very creative and very good at making things and all that kind of thing. We had a lot of artistic stuff in common. Great. So it was obviously, the right thing for us to be together, which was really lovely. So and actually after I got married, I then studied to do a City and Guilds. In creative embroidery and design, which sounds a little bit boring, but actually it was a very contemporary course.
No, it doesn't sound boring.
It was a very contemporary course, and we covered a lot of different issues, a lot of different textile things and skills. And again, that whole skill set that I learned at that time, I use every day now. It's like, God just knew and kind of that I needed to learn all of that. And then I did my final exhibition actually whilst pregnant with Jacob, which was quite a challenge. And as I was quite ill during my pregnancies, and then we moved to Weston. I had Jacob and we moved to Weston and had James here. And then really my sort of what I call my great art adventure began.
Okay, so
it really did sort of, as soon as we moved to Weston, that's when the art adventure began. And I think that God just had an amazing plan for me that was far beyond anything I could have imagined. And some of the things that I've ended up doing, people who've been to New Wine know Boulder Gang, and I ran the art for Boulder Gang for a few years. And that's organising art for 600 kids at a time, or 200 at a time, but 600 altogether. Just getting that whole thing together was quite a challenge. And I did think that after I'd done that, I could do anything.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah. So, it was, And one of the other things that I've done that's just really blown my mind is that I do a lot of work with carers. which came as a kind of accidental thing, actually. And this is where God works and does.
Yes.
There aren't any accidents with God, are there?
No.
So yeah, I started working with carers. I've been working with them for 15 years now, running all the art and craft workshops for the whole of this area.
Right.
And I love the fact that nothing is wasted with God. That difficult time that I went through as a child, now as a young carer, is being used whenever I work. Well, every day really, I work with carers, and I'm been able to kind of really understand what it's like to be in that situation. And I've just started before lockdown working with young carers, and I just told them my story of how I'd cared for my mum, and they immediately engaged, and I had an immediate connection with them because they kind of knew that I understood. And I think God uses the things that are difficult and painful. He can use them to bring beauty. One of the things that comes to me is beauty for ashes, from Isaiah 61. And that is the story, in a sense, of my life, in that God has brought beauty out of really quite difficult situations. And certainly with the carers, I can just see how he's used that difficult situation to bring, something beautiful. So no matter what we go through, and I really think this is the case with what we're going through all together with COVID. We've all had everything stripped away. There's really just felt like ashes left, didn't it, when we were all in lockdown and we couldn't do anything. Yeah, I know God is going to bring beauty out of that. I know that he will bring good things and beautiful things out of people's lives and out of the church, and it's going to emerge from this, and it is just, God's going to do so many things that are just beautiful out of this desolate time. So it's kind of, although it's a nerve-wracking time, it's an exciting time as well to wait to see what he's going to do. So
It's amazing. Well, it's a great kind of thought to have about coming out of, because we have been in this really weird situation, to have that kind of sense of that there is going to be something what comes from this, and it is going to be beautiful, it's going to be creative, it's going to be something which we're not really kind of realizing what he's doing through this, is it? So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And funnily enough, I mean, we've over the last few years, we've set up here Little Haven Studios, which I'll tell you about in a
Yeah.
minute. But this was going to be my first year of running it properly. I mean, last year I did run workshops, but the studio wasn't quite finished. But we've actually finished it this year. And so I was really looking forward to a summer full of lots of workshops in the garden and creativity. And um, when lockdown happened, I just couldn't believe it. I was
Yeah,
like,
no.
oh my word, the rug's been pulled from under my feet. This was going to be the first year, and I was so excited. I'd got so many things planned, and yet the rug was pulled from under my feet. And I just really felt that God said to me, for such a time as this, and that actually our creative gifts, and particularly my creative gifts, were going to be used during this time or after this time as we emerge from lockdown. And that this was the time that he'd set for it. So I'm really excited to kind of see what actually does happen.
So you don't know exactly what kind of plans he's got for you, but you have this anticipation about it.
Yeah, I have a real sense that I do think that something, he has got plans for this coming out of lockdown. And yeah, but I haven't really got plans sort of set as much. I have started doing workshops, as I said at the
Yeah,
beginning,
yeah.
but on a kind of low key at the moment. But I did do 2 last week, and they were really good.
Oh, great. Because really, have you noticed that, the kind of the mental health issues which may be coming out of lockdown, because agoraphobia, there's all kinds of things, and the anxiety levels, and young people going back to school, how that structure is going to hit them again, all those kind of different things. So
Mm.
how do you feel art helps with mental health and things like that?
Oh, I think it helps hugely. And I've already seen it in the last week,
Right.
actually, as people have just come and over the years working with carers. and also myself personally, I found art really helpful. But particularly, working with carers and all sorts of people from all different walks of life with all kinds of mental health issues, I've seen that art really does help them so much in so many different ways. It's such a valuable thing. It really is. So, yeah, I think, and God uses it as well. He absolutely uses it to meet with people, to minister to people. And again, I've seen it time and time again, where, he does that. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a very important part of coming out of this lockdown that we've all been in. So, yeah, and just helping people deal with the mental health issues that they have. Art takes you to another place. It takes you to somewhere lovely. So it's like, it is very therapeutic and very relaxing. So,
So have you,
yeah.
with art, because some people say I can't draw for toffee, say, or they can't do it. Yeah, have you seen that art is anyone can do art? It's like, yeah,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I often say that I specialize in the person that says they're not creative or artistic, because actually there's so many different things that you can do that you don't have to draw or paint for, and you can have a lot of fun with. And yeah, it's you don't necessarily have to be creative to do it. So, and I've worked with a lot of people over the years, who've come in the door and said, I'm not creative, I can't do this, I can't do this. And I'm like, don't worry, you'll be fine. And then they go out smiling and saying, oh yeah, I've really enjoyed myself. And oh, I didn't think I could do this. So, it's lovely when you see that in people, and I just see it time and time again. So yeah.
well, I think it because God is a creator God, he enables us to be creative in many different ways. Because
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, he really does. And the whole of the sort of Little Haven Studios thing came out of, again, quite a difficult situation that I was in.
right,
And I was taken to hospital 4 years ago or so,
right,
nearly 5 years ago, I think. I was rushed to hospital very poorly, and had to have emergency surgery that saved my life.
wow,
And yeah, and then obviously quite a long recovery. But whilst I was waiting for that surgery, I was in the hospital, actually quite frightened because they'd prepared me for all sorts of things that it could be because they didn't really know what it was.
right.
And I was quite frightened, and I just cried out to God again. It was one of those moments. I just cried out to God, and I was like, really, really, really terrified actually. And I had one of those moments where I just knew everything was going to be okay, and that God was looking after me again. So I kind of went through all the surgery and everything. And when I was recovering, I just kind of really felt that God had a plan and a purpose for my life, that He hadn't taken me then, that I'd come back, I was okay, and that actually He brought me back for a reason. And that's why, when for such a time as this,
Yes.
I kind of thought, yeah, this is it. This is what God kind of brought me back to, and He slowly built it over the years. Um, and incidentally, at Little Haven Studios, I've got to share about the name because our house is actually called Little Haven, and when we first moved in it,
Yes.
it the name of the house is actually Little Haven, and we couldn't believe it, because I always thought I wanted to run like a little art kind of workshop thing here. And Little Haven Studios was just the perfect name for it because it is actually a little haven, and it is beautiful here. So
Yes.
it's, God uses everything and knows everything, and I just think it's just amazing that He even deals with the details.
Yeah, especially if we're not a detail orientated people ourselves, we kind of see the bigger
Yeah,
picture, and he comes along and goes, "Oh, I'll just fill in those details for you." Yes,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, it
excellent,
is amazing. Yeah.
great. Well, it's you certainly have a very kind of amazing life story there. It's incredible how the Lord
Doesn't
has.
really feel so to me, but
Well, but that's always the way. We don't really kind of think we have anything to share. But
yeah,
I really believe that it's our story. No one can refute our story. No one
yeah,
can undermine our story and say, "Oh, that's that," because it's our story. And it's the story or how Jesus has impacted and transformed our lives.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that's what he does, isn't
yeah.
it? He takes our lives. And I've been blessed enough to walk with the Lord from a very young age. I've had a whole lifetime of walking with God, a huge, amazing, wonderful adventure, I call it, because I think when you walk with God, it is an adventure, isn't it?
Yes.
You just, especially if you give everything to Him and lay everything down, and your work and your life and everything is His. It is such an amazing adventure. And yet He takes us as just mere mortals, really, nothing, nobody people, and he brings amazing things out of it. And you can honestly say it's not yourself, it is God in you. So
Well,
yeah.
it's that the treasure in earthen vessels kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's His
yeah,
treasure in us, Him working from the inside out to
yeah,
help um, make a difference in
yeah,
people's lives, and that's what you've done through art. That's what you've seen. Yeah, your mum being transformed when she got to know Jesus as well. So, yeah, it's an amazing testimony. So, yeah, that is super. So, if there is one thing you could say to a young person who's listening now, what would you get? What kind of advice would you give them to? They may be struggling. They may be even struggling with, being a carer themselves, or there could be all kinds of things which could reflect from your life onto them. So, what was the big takeaway for you in that sense? If you could sum it up for a young person who's listening now.
yeah. I think probably just to really put God first in your life. And if you get God in the right place, everything else will fall into place. And also, God doesn't stop bad things happening to us, but He certainly uses them, and brings something lovely out of them very often. And beauty from the ashes, like I said before. And just, honor Him with yourself, with your gifts, with your life, and put Him first in your life. And basically everything else will fall into place. So, and He has a plan as well. He has a perfect plan for your life. And it's not the plan for somebody else's life, it's for you. And it's different. And the plan for your life will be for you, not for me or for anybody else. So I would just say, don't be dismayed if you don't see which way you're going at the moment. And I think especially that I've really gauged over the last few weeks, I think it's so sad when they call this generation, starting to call them the lost generation, aren't they? And it's so untrue. They're not lost because God's got them,
Yeah.
and He's got this, and He knows what He wants to do with the lives of young people.
Yes.
And just as much as He did before COVID, He has a plan and a purpose, and COVID won't stop that happening. So if you're there, and you're struggling and you don't know what to do with your life at this moment, or you've had the rug pulled from under your feet, then don't panic and don't worry, because God has it covered and He knows what He's doing, and He will make a way. Absolutely. So
Brilliant.
yeah, that's what I would say. Sorry, I'm preaching a sermon.
No, no, I'll say. Well,
I'm
so,
careful when I get
if
going.
Tom's listening to this, we've got our next sermon sometime where we can get her along. So yeah, it's great.
Oh
Thank
no,
you.
I always shy away from doing sermons.
Well, if you can video it and say, yeah, that works, then you're not doing it in front of people. So no, honestly, you that was beautiful. Honestly, that was really good. So yeah, and you preach away, honestly, because that made a huge amount of sense. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh,
So we're going to draw our interview to a close. I'm going to give you a quick fire 10 questions. Okay,
okay.
all right. This
All
is
right.
just a kind of brings us down
Now
to.
I'm worried about.
Okay, so the first question: what is your favourite word?
My favourite word is foliage.
Foliage. All right. Okay. Right.
Yes,
Great. You don't have to elaborate.
especially with my slight London accent.
Well,
When you say foliage,
foliage.
it
Yeah.
sounds really good. And I love growing things as well.
Good.
So,
Good. Yes. Yes. That's it. So, what is your least favourite word?
yeah, because I say it all the time after I speak and I hate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. So, what motivates you?
Um, oh, what motivates me?
What gets you out of
I
bed?
think, yeah, it's just, there you go. I just said it. I think honoring God in everything that I do, and doing the best that I possibly can for Him every day,
Excellent.
and giving Him my all. That is really what motivates me.
Brilliant. That's a great motivation to have as well. So what demotivates you then?
Technology. I hate technology.
Technology. Okay. All right.
I really struggle with it.
You,
See, I'm a creative person. We don't do technology.
some technology allows you to be creative in different ways. So
Yeah,
it's,
I
it's
know.
that's it. But okay. So what sound or noise do you love?
I love the sound of birds singing and of the waves on the beach.
Oh yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So what noise, sound or noise do you hate?
I hate wind chimes of a certain
Really?
level. Yeah. So the dark kind of
All
tones,
right.
I hate that sound. And anything sort of bell-like of that same tone,
Right.
I hate it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what is your comfort food?
Chocolate,
Chocolate. Well, there we are. Okay.
lots of it.
Um, what is your hobby? Which I think, you got so many different creative kind of things. So just name which is one of your hobbies. Which you haven't mentioned tonight.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I do a lot of creative stuff, which is essentially a hobby as well as a job. But I love my garden and I love gardening. And I would say that is my go-to place that I go to, where I just want to just do something lovely that I really enjoy. I lose myself in a world of plants and I just love it.
Brilliant. Excellent. So, what job would you like to have if you could have any job? What would you like to try out?
Okay, so oh yeah, I've got am I allowed to have two
Yes,
things?
of course you can. Of course you can. Yeah, you can have two things. Yeah.
Because the two things that I've always wanted to do is I'd love to be a conservator of textiles or art, an art conservator.
Okay.
But I'd also love to be a master craftsman at a forgotten craft, or at a craft that is going out of, that people don't do
Yeah.
anymore. I'd love to be that as well. So,
Okay. So, what you're
yeah.
working on now to kind of do that then?
Well, I have tried a bit of willow weaving.
Okay, that's cool.
But it's quite difficult. So, but yeah, I'd love to be a real master craftsman at something that is, yeah, that you could kind of be really, that's a real skill. So if that makes
Yes,
sense.
most definitely.
But also conservation as well. I'm really really interested in that, particularly conservation of art and textiles. So
Brilliant.
yeah.
Cool. I like it. So, last question for you: what would you like God to hear God say when you arrive in heaven? What would you like Him
Oh,
to say?
Um, I think I'd just like to be sort of accepted and welcomed in, really, and just those words, "Well done, good and faithful servant," and just to know that your time down on earth you did okay, and that God is sort of pleased with you, and yeah, that you've kind of got there, and you're there with Him for eternity. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Great. Well, Sandy, it's been a pleasure hearing your story. It's you've been so enthusiastic about your faith, and I'm sure you've inspired lots of people who have been who will watch it and who have been watching it. So thank you for
Oh,
being with us on this interview, and I really appreciate your time with us. So thank you very
oh,
much.
thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's
Thank you
okay.
for listening, everybody.
So we'll say goodbye, and yes,
Bye.
I've got next week. Hopefully, I can do this. So next week we've got so we got our Zoom meeting, Zoom games evening. So at 7 o'clock at 7 o'clock on Thursday night, we've got our Zoom games evening. So please join us for that, and just kind of contact me for the details. All right. So thank you for joining us. Bless you guys, and see you next week.